Well, the last few days have seen Boris Johnson dogged by a scandal around a former member of his Conservative Party and his sexual misconduct and various further sexual misconduct allegations against him, some of which that man, Chris Pincher, denies. And it all related back to how Boris Johnson's number 10 Downing Street administration had dealt with these allegations, and allegations that Boris Johnson and Downing Street had misled the public and misled journalists and misled members of Boris Johnson's own Conservative Party about what Boris Johnson knew and when. It was just the latest, though, in a series of scandals, and so for many Conservative lawmakers, they'd simply had enough of Boris Johnson, and so we saw those dozens and dozens of resignations from his government. This time yesterday, he was still saying he wouldn't resign, but overnight he realised the numbers simply weren't there for him anymore to be able to run a functioning government. And so we got this statement from outside Downing Street earlier on.
It is clearly now the will of the Parliamentary Conservative Party that there should be a new leader of that party and therefore a new Prime Minister. So I want to say to the millions of people who voted for us in 2019, many of them voting Conservative for the first time.
He made it very clear in that statement that he did not want to resign, that he has been forced into it by Conservative lawmakers who have been, for some time now, trying to get rid of him as their leader, despite that win in the election back in 2019. But he's not gone quite yet. He will remain in post as a caretaker Prime Minister while the Conservative Party chooses its next leader. Whoever becomes the next leader of the Conservative Party is automatically the UK's next Prime Minister. We don't know how long that will take, and so Boris Johnson could still remain in Downing Street for weeks, if not months.
Ollie, quick follow-up for you. Have we heard from any of the royals overseas? Of course, understanding there is a separation between leadership there. Have we heard anything from the Queen?
We have not been getting any statement from the royal family, from Buckingham Palace on this. That's not to say that there hasn't been any contact between Boris Johnson and Queen Elizabeth II, but they will not be saying anything about that conversation publicly.
All right. Ollie Barrett in London with the very latest. Ollie, thanks so much. Joining us now is the former advisor to Margaret Thatcher, director of Heritage Margaret Thatcher Centre, Nile Gardiner. Totally the perfect person to talk to today, Nile. Thank you so much for coming on today. Tell me about really the significance of this shakeup and the resignation of Boris Johnson, in your opinion.
Well, thank you, Emma, for having me on the show today. And, an extraordinary 2 or 3 days in British politics. Hugely significant development here. And, I think we are seeing in some respects, the departure of a larger than life figure on the world stage. When Boris Johnson is the man who actually delivered Brexit. He was a key figure in the 2016 Vote Leave referendum campaign. He won a massive, 80-plus parliamentary majority for the Conservative Party in the 2019 general election. Without Boris Johnson, we would never have had Brexit, actually. So, his place in history, I think, is guaranteed in many respects. And so, Boris's departure, I think it's a sad day for Britain. But at the same time, of course, I think that he was, in many respects, quite a flawed leader. Some of his policies left much to be desired. I would hope that his successor will implement a more Thatcherite economic agenda, including, low taxes, limited government, deregulation, etc. So Boris has been somebody who sort of dominated the British political landscape for several years. But ultimately, his own party got rid of him, as is often the case with the Conservative Party. You have a sort of internal revolution that removes its own leaders here. So let's hope this does not end in disaster, actually, for Britain's Conservatives, because you can be sure the socialist left are waiting in the wings to take over power if there's an early general election, and if they succeed in winning that, they will then roll back, I think, a lot of the Brexit era policies of the Johnson government.
That's essentially what you were alluding to in this tweet. It caught our team's eyes. You sent this out saying this is a high-risk moment for the UK. The left are delighted to see Boris Johnson removed from power, and many in Labour, Lib Dem, SNP parties would like to reverse Brexit. There's a real danger of Brexit being undermined, even reversed, if Conservatives lose an early election. Would they have the votes in that case? Tell me about the makeup of Parliament right now, where it stands.
Well, and the Conservatives still have an 80-seat majority in Parliament. That doesn't change. And so with Boris Johnson stepping down by October at the latest, as he's pledged to do so, that simply means that there's going to be a leadership contest for the Conservative Party in the summer. Whoever wins that contest will automatically become the Prime Minister. But there'll be immense pressure on a new Prime Minister to hold an early general election. Now, the polling shows at the moment that the Conservatives could well lose an early general election. And you could see a coalition between the Socialist Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats, and the Scottish Nationalists. If you see that kind of coalition coming into place, that would be a very left-wing government. It would be an anti-Brexit, government in many respects, because there are many within those parties who want to reverse Brexit. Even though the Labour Party leader Keir Starmer has disavowed that approach. The reality is that a left-wing coalition, I think, would seek to unravel Brexit. Also, with the Scottish Nationalists as part of that coalition, they would seek to unravel the United Kingdom itself. So let's be under no illusions here. The stakes are incredibly high with regard to what is happening here. The Conservative Party has a habit of sometimes forming a circular firing squad. They've removed, a prime minister who, has been a very, very big figure on the political scene in the UK for many decades. It's now potentially a huge leap into the dark for the Conservatives. Who knows what's going to happen next. But I hope they're going to pick a leader who is strong, robust, who's a Thatcherite, who's committed to free market policies, and who's going to fully deliver Brexit. There are some very strong candidates out there. I hope that we're going to see a real Conservative leading the Conservative Party.
Some names you might recognize on your screen there, possible replacements. Nile, if you had any prediction, who might you think gets the top spot? And then also, if you could, expand on how that impacts US-UK relations.
Yeah, great question. I think that, the front runners at the moment are Liz Truss, the Foreign Secretary. Also, we see, Rishi Sunak, the former Chancellor of the Exchequer. You have Ben Wallace, the Defense Secretary, who's been absolutely outstanding on Ukraine, as has Liz Truss on the Ukraine front. You also have Nadine Zahawi, who's the new Chancellor of the Exchequer, the former Education Secretary. So, a number of very strong contenders. On the left, you have Jeremy Hunt, the former Foreign Secretary, of course, who's been a huge critic of Boris Johnson. But you also have, figures like Suella Braverman, the Attorney General, who have been outstanding. So, in my view, it's a very strong bench of candidates, actually. But there are one or two figures on the left who could fundamentally change the outlook for the Conservative Party, and I'd be concerned about that as well. With regard to the United States, I think that any of the key contenders here that you're looking at would be very strong supporters of the US-UK special relationship. I think the big issue is whether or not whoever wins the leadership contest is willing to stand up to Joe Biden, who has been very anti-Brexit. He's been absolutely terrible on the Northern Ireland Protocol issue. Biden's been a thorn in Britain's side, actually, in many respects. And in my view, Boris Johnson has not been tough enough standing up to Joe Biden. I hope the next leader of the Conservative Party is going to stand up to what is, in effect, the most left-wing US administration of modern times. Joe Biden has not been a friend of Great Britain. And I hope the next PM projects strength and resolve when dealing with the US president, because Joe Biden, I think, has been absolutely awful on the Brexit front. And, we need a prime minister who's going to stand up to Joe Biden, frankly.
And we'll wait and see who that individual is tapped to be. Nile Gardiner, thanks so much, sir, for coming on. Really do appreciate your analysis.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.